Your calendar may be telling the truth your mouth has been avoiding. You say your faith matters. You say your family matters. You say your health, your purpose, and your future matter. But look carefully. What receives preparation? What receives protection? What receives your clearest mind and strongest energy? And what receives only whatever is left after everybody else has taken their share? Your calendar is a witness. It does not record what you meant to do. It records what you repeatedly made room to do. Now, this is not condemnation. Some seasons are demanding. Children need care. Work becomes intense. Families face crises. Responsibilities cannot simply be ignored. The question is not whether your life is busy. The question is, what order is governing your busyness? Listen carefully. Life moves in the direction of whatever repeatedly receives your time, your attention, and your energy, not what receives your occasional excitement, not what receives one passionate promise at the beginning of the year. What receives you consistently. You can say, health is important while never making room for rest or care. You can say relationships are precious while giving the people you love only distracted conversation at the end of an exhausted day. You can say you have a purpose while protecting every notification, every interruption, every invitation, and every hour of entertainment, but never protecting the work connected to that purpose. That contradiction is the real problem. A powerful intention cannot govern a routine that continually overrules it. Inspiration may visit you for an evening, but structure is waiting for you in the morning. And if the structure remains unchanged, the inspiration will eventually become another memory. Write this down. My routine reveals my ruling priority. Now say it aloud. My routine reveals my ruling priority. That statement is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you. Because what can be seen can be examined, and what can be examined can be reordered. By the end of this message, you will know what to audit, what to remove, what to protect, and where to place your strongest hours. You may discover that you were never suffering from a mysterious shortage of time. You were suffering from a conflict between what you declared valuable and what you actually protected. But before we correct the calendar, we must understand the principle beneath it. You cannot manage time honestly until you understand priority. So what is time? Time is a passing resource. You can invest it, misuse it, or give it away, but you cannot place Monday in storage and withdraw it next year. Once a moment has passed, its opportunity has changed. That is why time itself is not your greatest problem. The order governing your time is the problem. Now define priority. Priority means first in rank, first in protection, and first in consequence. It is not merely what feels important when you are inspired. It is what receives preference when two valuable things compete. Some people say, I have 10 priorities. No, you have 10 interests or 10 responsibilities. You cannot have 10 first things. The moment two demands collide, your decision identifies which one is governing that moment. This brings us to discipline. Discipline is self-government. It is your ability to honor a chosen order when comfort, appetite, emotion, or outside pressure offers you another one. You plan to rest, but you keep scrolling. You plan to study, but every message becomes a meeting. You promise to be present with your family, but your mind is still at work. Then you say, I need more discipline, as though discipline is an emotion expected to knock on the door. Discipline is not a feeling that visits you. It is a decision that governs you. And discipline is not punishment. Discipline protects. It protects your peace from chaos, your relationships from neglect, your reputation from inconsistency, your capacity from exhaustion, and your future from the careless habits of today. Freedom is not the ability to obey every impulse. If every appetite can command you, you are not free. You are available for control. Freedom is the power to choose what is right, even when what is easy is calling your name. Two people can receive similar blocks of time and arrive at very different futures. Why? Repetition. A small decision, repeated, becomes a direction. A few minutes of learning can become knowledge. Regular attention can become trust. Consistent care can strengthen health. But repeated delay can also become an unfinished life. A routine is like soil. Every day you place seeds into it: attention, neglect, courage, distraction, preparation. At first, nothing appears dramatic, but eventually the harvest reveals what was planted. So say it again. My routine reveals my ruling priority. It does more than show what you did. It exposes the order governing who you are becoming. Prioritization, then, is not simply calendar management. It is self-government. But once priority is understood as order, the next question becomes unavoidable. What authority should determine that order? What should determine the order? Purpose. Purpose is not an impressive title you announce when someone asks what you do. Purpose is the intended contribution that gives direction to what you do every day. It tells your gifts where to serve, your energy where to flow, and your time what it must protect. When purpose is absent, substitutes take control. Convenience begins deciding. Emotion begins deciding. Comparison begins deciding. The loudest person in the room begins deciding. And when everybody else can determine your order, you may be busy all day and still neglect the reason you got up. Imagine entering a car, pressing the accelerator, and driving faster every hour without choosing a destination. Would you call that progress? No. Speed without direction only helps you become lost more quickly. Activity is not achievement. Movement is not always progress. Progress means movement toward an intended destination. So pause and answer 3 questions. First, what must my life faithfully build? Second, whom am I responsible to serve? Third, what kind of person must I become to carry that responsibility? Those answers become filters. When an invitation arrives, you no longer ask only, is this good? You ask, is this mine? Is this right for this season? Does it honor what has already been entrusted to me? A good opportunity can still be a wrong assignment. A worthy request can still arrive at the wrong time. If you accept everything that appears valuable, you will eventually have no strength left for what is essential. And understand this, calling is not fantasy. Fantasy loves attention without preparation, appearance without character, and reward without service. Calling develops you. Calling makes you responsible. Calling turns your gifts outward until they become useful to somebody besides you. That is why purpose must be protected. The moment you establish direction, competing possibilities will appear. Comfortable detours will invite you to delay. People who benefited from your lack of focus may resist your new boundaries. But if everything can interrupt your purpose, then purpose is not yet governing your life. Do not use another person's pace to arrange your day. Their visible opportunity may belong to a different assignment, a different responsibility, and a different season. Comparison will make you abandon your field because someone else's harvest is visible. Complete this sentence. In this season, the most important work entrusted to me is, write it plainly. Let that answer challenge your calendar. Purpose is the filter that turns a crowded life into an ordered life. If the destination is not permitted to shape the day will eventually erase the destination. But even with purpose written down, one force can seize the day before purpose has a chance to lead. That force is urgency. You begin the morning with a clear intention. You know what needs to be done. Then the phone lights up. A message becomes a request. The request becomes a complaint. The complaint becomes a conversation. Then somebody remembers a task they should have mentioned 3 days ago, and suddenly their delay has become your emergency. By noon, your original plan is gone. You have been active, available, responsive, and completely redirected. This is how urgency becomes a master. Urgency is a demand for immediate attention. Importance is a responsibility with meaningful long-term consequence. Sometimes they are the same. A medical crisis, a child in danger, or a genuine emergency deserves immediate response. Compassion must never become an excuse for indifference. But everything that interrupts you is not an emergency. Everything marked urgent is not automatically important. Sometimes a matter feels urgent because someone failed to prepare. Sometimes it feels urgent because somebody expects unlimited access to you. And sometimes it becomes urgent because you are afraid to make them wait. Now examine that fear. Why do you agree so quickly? Are you afraid of rejection? Do you need to appear helpful? Are you avoiding an uncomfortable conversation? Or have you built your identity around being the person everybody needs? There is a difference between responding and reacting. Reaction allows pressure to decide. Response creates a pause long enough for wisdom to speak. Before accepting a new demand, Ask 3 questions. Is this truly mine? Must it happen now? What protected responsibility will be displaced if I agree? That 3rd question is important because every yes has an invisible price. When you give an hour to one demand, that same hour cannot serve your child, your health, your preparation, your rest, or your assignment. The cost does not disappear because you agreed with a smile. Now, boundaries do not give you permission to become cold, selfish, or unreliable. A disciplined person keeps commitments and responds to genuine need. But boundaries allow you to serve from conviction instead of serving from fear until kindness turns into resentment and responsibility turns into exhaustion. Say this aloud. Everything demanding my attention does not deserve my agreement. Again, everything demanding my attention does not deserve my agreement. And there is another kind of boundary you must learn, the boundary between your responsibility and an outcome you cannot control. Some situations will not be repaired by one more message, one more argument, one more night of worry, or one more attempt to force another person to change. You must fulfill your proper duty, speak truthfully, act wisely, and then release what does not belong in your hands. That is not passivity. That is peaceful responsibility. You can care without carrying everything. You can help without becoming governed by every request. You can pause without being cruel. And you can say no to pressure while still saying yes to purpose. But external demands are only half the problem. Much of the day is lost without anyone taking it from us, through small leaks that rarely announce their true cost. A leak is a loss through an opening that appears too small to matter. One drop does not frighten you, but leave the opening unexamined, and the repeated loss can empty what you were supposed to use. There are 4 common leaks. The first is reactive communication. You wake up and immediately enter everybody else's world. Messages, updates, opinions, requests. Before your mind has received direction, it has received traffic. Then you remain mentally available to every sound your device makes. The answer is not to disappear. Establish response windows. Decide when you will answer routine communication and protect periods in which important work cannot be interrupted by every new input. The second leak is entertainment without boundaries. Rest is necessary. Recreation can restore you. But there is a difference between choosing something that refreshes you and being carried along by consumption that leaves you restless, delayed, and mentally crowded. Before you begin, decide why you are doing it and when you will stop. If there is no stopping point, recreation can quietly become occupation. The third leak is unnecessary commitment. You agree automatically, then later discover that your calendar is full of responsibilities that do not serve your calling, honor your relationships, or belong to your present season. Stop answering non-essential requests immediately. Say, let me check my commitments. A short waiting period can protect you from a long obligation. The fourth leak is chronic indecision. Some people make the same decision every day for 3 months. They think no action means no cost, but the unresolved choice continues consuming attention. Set a deadline. Gather enough information. Decide responsibly. Then accept that certainty may remain incomplete. Wisdom does not always remove risk. It gives you a sound basis for moving. And listen, you must measure more than minutes. A 10-minute argument can occupy your mind for 6 hours. Comparison can drain energy without touching your calendar. An unresolved conflict, a repeated imaginary conversation, or the attempt to control another person can continue charging rent inside your attention. Attention is directional. What repeatedly enters your mind influences what you believe, how you feel, and what you choose next. Therefore, what you watch, hear, rehearse, and permit to remain is also a priority decision. It is remarkable. A person will search the house for a small amount of missing money, then sit down with an open screen and misplace an entire evening without launching an investigation. So do not condemn your whole life. Name one leak. Which is largest right now? Reactive communication, unbounded entertainment, unnecessary commitment, or indecision. Identify it clearly and choose its boundary. Your routine reveals your ruling priority, but your leakage reveals what you have permitted to compete with it. And leaks feel optional only until their consequences mature. What you repeatedly postpone does not remain small. Neglected essentials eventually return demanding attention as emergencies. Write this down. What you neglect today often returns tomorrow with a larger demand. Neglect collects interest. Consider your health. You repeatedly ignore rest, movement, and appropriate care because the schedule feels too important to interrupt. For a while, you may continue functioning, but reduced energy can make ordinary responsibilities harder to carry. What would have required a small, consistent investment may later demand a far greater share of your attention. Look at relationships. One conversation is postponed, then another. You are physically present but mentally elsewhere. Promises are made casually and broken repeatedly. Trust usually does not collapse in one dramatic moment. It can weaken through small disappointments that were never repaired. Eventually, rebuilding the relationship may require more time, honesty, and patience than steady attention would have required. Now examine your inner life. If every quiet moment is filled with noise, when do you reflect? When do you pray? When do you practice gratitude? When do you become still enough to recognize what is driving your decisions? A mind trained only to react will struggle to produce clear direction. The same principle governs meaningful work. You avoid the difficult task because avoidance gives immediate relief. But the deadline moves closer, pressure rises, the work becomes rushed, the quality suffers, anxiety increases, and now the discomfort you escaped has returned with reinforcements. That is the deception of small, careless choices. Their consequences are delayed. Because nothing collapses today, you assume nothing is being constructed. But repetition is always building something. Eventually, the hidden direction becomes visible. There is a difference between crisis management and stewardship. Crisis management asks, what must I rescue right now? Stewardship asks, what must I maintain so it will not need rescuing later? Discipline, then, is compassionate prevention. A protected bedtime can guard tomorrow's capacity. An honest conversation can prevent months of distance. A quiet morning can restore clarity. A focused work period can keep a responsibility from becoming a midnight emergency. And do not confuse exhaustion with importance. Being depleted does not prove you are devoted. Restoration is not wasted time when it renews your ability to think clearly, serve faithfully, and carry responsibility without constant resentment. Rest belongs in an ordered life. So ask yourself, what essential area has been surviving on leftovers? Your health, your closest relationships, your spiritual life, your restoration, the work you know you must complete, and what emergency may be forming because you continue postponing maintenance. Do not wait for neglect to become a crisis before you call it important. Maintaining what matters is usually less costly than repeatedly rescuing what has been ignored. But once you recognize every neglected area, another problem appears. Everything suddenly feels important. The answer is not to create a longer list. The answer is to establish a truthful hierarchy. A task list records what is demanding your attention. A hierarchy decides which demands are permitted to govern the others. That is the difference. You do not need another list containing 47 items that all appear equally urgent. You need an order. Let me give you 5 categories for that order. First is calling. Calling is the governing direction of your life. It includes your spiritual alignment, your deepest values, the purpose you are pursuing, and the kind of person you intend to become. Calling answers the question, why am I building any of this? Second is responsibility. Responsibility means the duties already entrusted to you. Your work, your care for others, your promises, and your present obligations cannot be abandoned simply because a more exciting opportunity appears. Ambition that ignores responsibility is not purpose. It is escape wearing impressive clothing. Third is relationship. People are not tasks to be processed. The relationships entrusted to you require presence, honesty, reliability, and appropriate boundaries. They cannot remain permanently at the bottom of the list, receiving only the exhausted version of you. Fourth is restoration. Restoration renews your body, mind, and spirit so that service remains sustainable. If you never recover, your work may continue for a while, but your peace, judgment, and patience will begin paying the price. Rest is not the enemy of purpose. Proper rest supports purpose. Fifth is contribution. This is where your gifts become useful through focused work, learning, creating, serving, solving, and leading. Potential becomes contribution when it is developed and consistently offered for the benefit of others. Now, this hierarchy is not a rigid hourly formula. Life has seasons. Emergencies happen. A new child, a demanding project, a family need, or a period of recovery may temporarily require greater attention. But temporary emphasis must not silently become permanent disorder. When two good demands compete, apply this test. Which one belongs to this season? Which one carries an existing responsibility? Which one will produce the greater consequence if neglected? Those questions force honesty. They also force sacrifice. You cannot preserve every comfort, satisfy every person, accept every attractive opportunity, and still claim that one purpose governs your life. Proper order will cost you something. It may cost convenience. It may cost approval. It may cost an opportunity that is good but not yours. Now rank these 5 for your present season: calling, responsibilities, relationships, restoration, and contribution. Then compare that order with your calendar. Where do they contradict each other? Say this aloud: I will not organize my life around whatever arrives first. I will organize it around what matters most. That hierarchy gives you a framework for choosing between good demands without merely adding more tasks. But a hierarchy can sound convincing in theory while remaining imaginary in practice. Before building a new schedule, you must examine the life you have actually been living. For the next 7 days, do not begin by changing your schedule. Begin by telling yourself the truth about it. This audit is not punishment. It is observation. You are not gathering evidence for self-condemnation. You are gathering evidence for a wise decision. You cannot correct a pattern you refuse to see. Keep the method simple. Use one page, one note, or one document divided into 4 parts: time, attention, energy, and alignment. Do not build such an elaborate tracking system that tracking your time becomes the newest way you waste it. For 7 days, record your activities in broad intervals. Use honest labels: focused work, family care, travel, messages, entertainment, restoration, prayer, planning, or unplanned drift. Do not write important business when you are rearranging the same files and avoiding the difficult task. Accuracy is mercy. After each meaningful block, mark the quality of your attention: focused, fragmented, or absent. You can sit beside somebody for an hour while your attention lives inside a screen. Physical presence and genuine engagement are not always the same. Next, record the effect on your energy: strengthening, neutral, or draining. Be careful here. A difficult responsibility may leave you tired while still being aligned with your values. An easy activity may require little effort yet leave you scattered and dissatisfied. Tired does not always mean wrong, and easy does not always mean restorative. Then mark the alignment. Did that block serve your calling, maintain a legitimate responsibility, strengthen a relationship, restore your capacity, or develop your contribution? Or did it displace something more important? At the end of each day, answer 4 questions. What received my best energy? What interrupted me? What did I avoid? What did I do merely to satisfy pressure or emotion? At the end of 7 days, look for patterns. Do not become obsessed with perfect arithmetic. Identify the category you protected most, the leak that consumed the greatest capacity, and the essential area that received the least. Now compare the evidence with your stated values. Name the contradiction plainly. No excuses, but no theatrical guilt either. Guilt can become another distraction if it produces emotion without correction. Look at your environment. Is the device beside your bed deciding how the morning begins? Is your availability undefined? Are you losing time because nothing is prepared before the work begins? Are certain relationships built on the assumption that you are always accessible? Also, identify what is working. Which routine already produces clarity? Which boundary produces peace? Which repeated action makes you reliable? Reinforce what is bearing good fruit. Complete these statements. My calendar says I value. My attention is being captured by. My energy is being spent on. Then choose one contradiction. Only one. Trying to repair every category at once often produces a dramatic week followed by the same old disorder. We are not pursuing temporary intensity. We are establishing sustainable order. The audit has now diagnosed what is governing your life. The next movement is reconstruction, and it begins with a three-part reset. The reset requires three moves: subtraction, protection, and assignment. Not a complete reinvention of your life. Three decisions strong enough to change its direction. Move 1. Remove. Choose one recurring commitment, input, or habit that the audit exposed as clearly misaligned. Do not merely complain about it. Decide what must happen. Will you decline it, delegate it, reduce it, relocate it, or end it? Removal may disappoint people who benefited from your unrestricted availability. Prepare a respectful boundary before the pressure arrives. You might say, I cannot continue doing this in the same way, but here is what I can responsibly offer. Clear does not mean cruel, and you do not need a 20-minute defense for every wise decision. Move 2. Protect. Choose one essential practice that has been surviving on leftovers. It may be prayer and reflection, time with someone you love, health maintenance, genuine restoration, or the development of a skill connected to your contribution. Now convert that intention into an appointment. Give it a start time, a location, a duration, and a boundary. I need to rest more is a wish. At this time, in this place, for this long, I will stop and recover is structure. What is protected can become consistent. Move 3. Assign. Identify your strongest realistic period of mental or physical energy. Not somebody else's ideal morning, your actual strongest period. Then give its first claim to your highest responsibility. Stop spending your clearest mind responding to low-value demands and offering your purpose whatever energy survives. Create a simple opening ritual. Prepare the environment. Remove the primary distraction. State the result you intend to produce. Then begin with one visible action. Open the document. Put on the shoes. Start the conversation. Read the first page. Small beginnings reduce your dependence on mood. And establish a recovery rule because disruption will happen. If you miss one protected block, reschedule it and examine what interrupted it. Do not turn one missed appointment into permission to abandon the entire order. Discipline is not perfection. It is the decision to return. You must also know where your control ends. Act faithfully where responsibility is clear. Prepare, communicate, serve, and follow through. But release outcomes, timing, and other people's reactions. Greater striving cannot govern what was never placed under your authority. Before this message ends, place all three moves into the next 7 days. Write what you will remove. Schedule what you will protect. Assign your strongest available hours to the responsibility that matters most. A changed life begins when your highest purpose receives first claim, not whatever time remains. The reset is practical, but one step remains. You must turn these three decisions from a temporary exercise into a personal covenant governing your next season. Your calendar exposed the order. Purpose gave you the filter, the audit gave you evidence, and the reset gave you a method. Now you must choose which life you will practice. Will you keep reacting, or will you begin leading yourself? Will you offer everyone unlimited access, or establish wise boundaries? Will the people and responsibilities you value continue receiving leftover attention, or will they receive protected presence? Will your future depend on occasional intention, or will it be built through consistent structure? Discipline creates trust. Every time your actions align with your decision, you learn that your own commitment can be believed. And when you consistently keep your word, other people learn that you are reliable. Alignment strengthens character. But do not turn this into perfectionism. The goal is not to control every minute. Life will interrupt you. Plans will change. Legitimate needs will arise. The goal is to prevent disruption from becoming the permanent ruler of your life. When the order is disturbed, return to it. Now read your three reset decisions aloud. What will you remove? What will you protect? Where will your best available hours go? Do not leave those answers inside your head. Speak them. Then say this with conviction. My routine reveals my ruling priority, and my highest purpose will no longer receive my leftovers. Within the next 24 hours, make the removal. Place the protected appointment on your calendar. Begin the first high priority block. Do not wait for another wave of inspiration while another day is spent by default. May you receive wisdom to recognize what truly matters, courage to refuse what competes with it, discipline to remain faithful when the excitement fades, and peace to release the outcomes you cannot control. Your life does not need to become louder. It needs to become aligned. Your schedule does not need to impress people. It needs to tell the truth. You are not waiting for more time. You are waiting for a truthful order strong enough to govern the time already in your hands.